I'd now like to welcome the first of our keynote speakers today, ladies and gentlemen. Please put your hands together for Bro McFerran, Managing Director of AllState, which is, of course, Northern Ireland's largest IT employer. Bro.
Why am I here today? Bernard gave me the opportunity to speak to you today. I'm passionate about one thing, and that's skills. And ICT, and not just ICT, computing skills, analytical skills, lots of different skills that we need here. I think there's a massive opportunity for Northern Ireland, and we need to seize that opportunity, and that's the thrust of what I'm going to tell you about today. Tell you a little bit about what qualifies me to speak to you today, a little bit about my background, how AllState are operating in Northern Ireland, a little bit about what we do, and then go on to make some assertions about how we can capitalise on the opportunity that's out there. So if you see a slight look of terror in my eyes, I left the office this morning and I had a little storyboard done, you know, with all the points that I wanted to make and the sort of the major chapter headings of my speech. And of course, you print it out as you do. But I left the office and guess what? It's on the printer. So I was frantically writing down notes there. So as I say, if there's a look of terror in my eyes, I'm doing this entirely without the aid of a safety net. I do have a script, but there's nothing worse than reading out a script. So I'll use that as my ad lib sheet. If you don't mind, I'll refer to that every now and again. So first of all, let me tell you a little bit about me, and I suppose I'm a product of the Northern Ireland education system and the lack of careers advice that was around about probably 45 years ago or whatever time I should have been getting careers advice. So I was, and in fact, if I think about my kids, it was exactly the same thing. I remember my eldest son got an electrical engineering degree, and I was at the graduation ceremony, and I was slapping him on the back and saying, "That's great, you're an engineer now, son." He says, "I don't want to be an engineer. I'm not going to do electrical engineering." And he vowed never to have anything to do with electrical engineering. I'm still somebody who's... I want to be something when I grow up. Now, I've got lots of grey hair, but I still want to be something. I'd love to be involved in things, creativity. The one message I suppose I would get out, and I probably am preaching to the choir here, there's a guy called Ken Robinson who talks about creativity. In fact, he spoke at the City of Culture and he spoke in the Belfast Met College some years ago. He is my hero when it comes to creativity. If you haven't heard about him, go on to TED.com and just look up Ken Robinson and watch every one of his videos. They are truly inspiring. He's a fabulous guy, and you should watch all of his things. But back to me, I've done all sorts of things. I've been a barman, I've been a labourer, I've been a civil servant. I was actually a civil servant at one stage. I always tell the story when I'm addressing civil servants. When I was working in the civil servant, my mother came up with the catchphrase, "I've got two sons living and one in the civil service." And so it was a bit like that. I've been a teacher, so I have empathy with all of you guys. It's a great opportunity to talk to hundreds of teachers here, because you guys hopefully are going to shape education, and what I say will hopefully resonate with you. I want to be evangelical about what we can do in the education sector to turn out the sort of outcomes that we want. And I know Ian Simons has already been name-checked today, but Ian's doing fabulous work as far as that's concerned. He's a true evangelist. I'm only an apprentice evangelist. So congratulations on everything you're doing, Ian. And that Go Berserk book is something that we're certainly behind, and we want to continue to support everything that Ian's doing in the education sector. So anyhow, I was a teacher at one stage too. I then became a salesman, and that was, I suppose, my metamorphosis. I joined a company called Rank Xerox. They then became Xerox, but effectively it was a copying company in those days. And I remember going home and being absolutely thrilled about being offered this job, and I told my mother, "I've just been offered a job in sales," and her face dropped. It was like, "Oh my God, I'm going to have a son who's a salesman," you know, and the world's going to fall in now. How on earth am I going to suffer this, somebody who's a salesman? That was the attitude that was out there. She thought I was going around the doors with a suitcase selling brushes or something like that. She didn't realise that selling is at the centre of everything. Selling's at the centre of everything that we're going to be talking about here today. And selling is a great creative talent. And that's something that you need to try and get out of education, because I would contend the products that we should be looking for out of education, and there's a lot of talk. I mean, if I look at DE today, there's a lot of soul searching about 11 plus and all of these things. That, to me, is almost irrelevant. The best outcome you can get out of education is come out with a business plan. Don't come out with A-level certificates or an exam certificate. If you come out with a business plan and you can employ one person, if we could do that, I think that would be a fabulous accomplishment. And that's back to the sales thing. Learn how to get confidence, sell yourself, sell your characteristics, sell your creativity. Those are things that we need to inculcate as far as education's concerned. I'm now looking at the crib sheet here. The other thing I suppose I would call myself as a Northern Ireland chauvinist. I always believed in this place. And my career blossomed from sales in Xerox to sales in computing. And I moved into computers. In fact, the first computer I ever sold was £80,000, and it was 30k of memory, a 5 megabyte fixed disk and a 5 megabyte removable disk, and 3 VDUs as they were called in those days. That was 80,000 quid. So Moore's law has applied, and so there's more technology on my iPhone. In fact, there's probably about 1,000 times more technology on my iPhone today than there was in those days. But I set up a computing company. We sold, the company's called Logicom. We sold Wang computers. And probably a lot of you haven't heard of Wang computers, but in their day, Wang were leading the field, predominantly in word processing and all of those things. In fact, Dr. Wang, who set up the company, was actually the second richest guy in the world whenever it was at its peak. The Sultan of Brunei was the richest, and Dr. Wang was number 2, and he was the most humble guy you could ever meet. His secret sauce was he invented magnetic core store. He invented the first electronic phototypesetter, for those of you who are into those sort of things. He was an incredible character, set up a great business, but Wang has gone the way of all flesh now. It's like a whole lot of other companies. We don't hear of digital equipment now or any of those ones. So we set up this company, and we got to a stage where it kind of became a lifestyle company, where we were making enough money just to pay everybody on the payroll, but we weren't doing anything else. And there was a particular Friday afternoon, I remember it. It was around about 5:15 on a Friday afternoon. I think it was the last Friday before Christmas. And the phone went. This is a very serendipitous phone call. And I lifted up the phone, and this guy said, "You're the 5th company I've called on a Friday afternoon, and you're the first one who's answered the call." And I said, "Yes, can I help you with my good sales techniques? How can I help you?" He says, "I represent a US company, and they want to buy a Northern Ireland software company." So all of a sudden my ears pricked up. I'm thinking, lifestyle company, could I get rid of this company? Within 4 months, we had sold out to a US company. And it was a great opportunity, very serendipitous. I didn't become a millionaire, that was the big mistake. But anyhow, the thing about it was we were given a purpose, and the purpose was to set up a software development company in Belfast with 150 people. Back to my Northern Ireland chauvinism, I'm thinking, this is a great opportunity for Northern Ireland. We need to do something about this. The big thing was they needed computer mainframe skills. And when you approached the universities in those days, they didn't do mainframe computing as far as they were concerned. Things have moved on. It's all client server now. Nobody does mainframe computing. And the thought of doing mainframe computing appalled them. But even today, we're still dealing with mainframe computing, to use an expression that you hear in Northern Ireland, that hasn't gone away, you know. That is where we are as far as mainframe computing is concerned. But what we needed to do then was to effectively hot stage those skills. And one of the ways that we did that was, and I was always struck by the fact that we had a lot of unemployed graduates, particularly in the 1980s that we're talking about now. Was it the 80s? Yeah. Actually, it was the early 1990s. We had a lot of unemployed graduates. So I said, why don't we reskill these people? They've obviously a demonstrable record in education. If we got the right courses together, we could reskill those people and put them into IT. They could become mainframe programmers. We did that. We did it very successfully. got that company up to 150 people, and that was kind of my goal, was to get it to 150 people. And then they said, why don't you come and work for us in the States, which I did for about a year and a half, which I hated, incidentally. But and I didn't hate the States, so if anybody's from the US here, I'm not saying anything derogatory about the US. I hated the company because it was relentless work, 7 days a week, trying to promote a NASDAQ listed company, and I didn't enjoy it. So when I got the opportunity to come back and set up AllState, I applied for the job and was lucky to be selected as employee number one in AllState. And they had a vision too, and their vision was to set up a software company in Northern Ireland with 250 employees. And the business plan was very straightforward. 5-year business plan, 250 employees over 5 years. If you do that, you'll make $17 million in Northern Ireland, so the company's successful. More importantly, you'll save AllState in the US $50 million. So win-win, everybody's happy. And it was a very straightforward business model. So I thought, this is good. And there was a certain amount of skepticism around in the US. Can we do this? Could we actually create 250 jobs? This is in 1999. Actually, the business plan came out in 1998. I started about January 1999. And in those days, that was quite a challenge. Suffice to say that we had done 250 employees by the end of the second year. And that was on the basis that we scoured the countryside for the sort of skills that we were looking for. We hired anybody who had 2 legs and a heartbeat. This was pre-year 2000. In those days, if you could spell COBOL, you got a job as a programmer, because everybody was making so much money. Everybody thought the planes were going to drop out of the sky whenever the clock turned 12 o'clock on New Year's Eve. Thankfully, that didn't happen, but there was a lot of money made out of that particular scare. But anyhow, that was followed very quickly by the dot-com bubble in the early 2000s. And in those days, it was kind of strange, and I said it at the time, we weren't interviewing people for jobs, they were interviewing us. So you had graduates coming out of university saying, what sort of a car am I going to get, and what are the share options, and when am I going to become a dot-com millionaire? And that was what everybody believed in those days. It was a bullish time in the computing industry. So we had got to about 250 people, so we said we should really set up another centre, which we did in McGee College. Again, because we had proximity to graduates, we could grow the business. Hopefully we could attract back some of the graduates back to Derry who had graduated from McGee. So that was we opened up a second front in Derry. Very quickly after that, we started to say there's an opportunity in the BPO, the business process outsourcing area, where you can hire a lot of people, do a lot of stuff. And we set that up originally in Belfast, and it's now currently in Strabane. So the point that I'm going to make is we've now created a company that the original business plan was to save $50 million for AllState in 5 years. We conservatively estimate, and this is a very conservative estimate, that we've saved AllState $1.5 billion over 14 years. That's the massive opportunity. And the thing that I'm going to say to you now is we cannot get enough people. We have 2,300 people working for us today. If we could get people, we'd be at 5,000. We could be at 7,000. As you pass City on the way up here, they've said exactly the same thing. They can't get the number of people that they need. Huge opportunity, massive opportunity to do things here. I did mention at the start of this that it's kind of the contest of the videos here. This is, I suppose, my fee for doing a talk today. We have a video here that tells you a little bit about AllState. I would encourage you teachers to encourage parents and pupils both to go onto our website. And what we've tried to do is to create a day in the life of a software person working in AllState. And we want to try and dispel this notion that it's all hairy-backed programmers slouching over keyboards, working in a sweatshop. That's not what computing is about these days. It is about creativity. It's about all the things that Stephen mentioned. And I thought Stephen spoke very well on the subject. That's what computing's about today. So in the competition of the videos, I think we might come third so far, but nevertheless, there's a message that's coming through here.
Hi, I'm Mark Ballock, and I'm a software developer at AllState Northern Ireland. I've worked there since 2007 and I mainly develop in JavaScript and HTML. When I was younger, I always wanted to be a footballer, but that didn't quite work out for me. I fell into IT whenever my family got their first computer, which was an Amiga. My brother and I spent endless hours playing games on. We got our first PC in the house in 1996, and it was then that I really started to get into making basic web pages and designing small programs in Visual Basic. I studied an Associate Bachelor's degree in the University of Ulster. I then went on to study my full Bachelor's with Honours in Computing Science at the University of Newcastle in England. I graduated from Newcastle in the summer of 2007 and was lucky enough to land my graduate job at AllState Northern Ireland 2 months later. I wanted to work for AllState because they're the largest IT company in Northern Ireland. I'd also heard that they treat their employees very well. I have been lucky enough, however, to travel to Chicago on 2 occasions, the first time being for 4 weeks when I joined the company, and the second time just for a week. As a new graduate, this was a great opportunity for me as I was able to experience a new city and get to know my US counterparts better. It was also insightful to see how a large American corporation operates. The thing I enjoy most about working at AllState Northern Ireland is the social side of the company. We have a great sports and social committee that arrange beer and pizza events once a month. This is a great opportunity to get to socialise with your work colleagues outside of the work environment. The company is also involved with a number of community projects, one of which I volunteer for is X the Text. This is where we go out to a number of schools and colleges and teach young drivers about the dangers of texting whilst driving. This gives me an opportunity to give something back to the community and also build skills such as communication and collaboration. AllState Northern Ireland provides a great balance, allowing me to further my development skills along with making good friends through the social side of the company.
I'm Chris Doherty. I'm a .NET developer and an MS Buildmeister here at AllState Northern Ireland. When I was a child, I always wanted to be a marine biologist, but the notion wore off me during school when I realised that I would spend my days standing in a freezing Irish river rather than swimming among the coral in the Red Sea. So I opted to do media studies. It was clear that the media industry was a tough nut to crack. I decided to make my own luck, and I was accepted onto the Momentum and Invest NI postgraduate IT conversion course. Basically, this course took non-IT graduates and trained them into IT graduates. It was a hugely testing year. My social life was non-existent. Sure, it paid off. I've been working for AllState for 2.5 years. I'm loving every minute, and thanks to the Sports and Social Committee, my social life has improved too. The benefits are great too. We get private dental cover, health cover, a company contribution pension plan, and the pay isn't half bad either, which is a good thing because I've recently bought a house.
My name is Brian Wilson and I work in the search engine optimization team, the SEO team. When I was a young boy, my dad brought home a Spectrum ZX81, one of the first personal computers, and that really got me into computers. My interest in computers then led me on to study at Bournemouth University. I had a great time there and I spent my year out working on Witch Farm, which is an oil field down in the south coast of England. After university, I came back home to Northern Ireland and I worked for Epona for 7 years. I took a year out and went travelling around the world, and I spent 4 months working in Melbourne, Australia for NEC. After that, when I came back, I decided that I would try and move on to a new line of work, so I applied for a job in AllState. The main reasons that I like working for AllState are that I can work from home. Hello, welcome to my house. This is where I spend half my working week. The best thing about working from home is that I get a couple of extra hours in the day as I don't have to commute, so I can spend that time with my family, with my wife and my son. I would recommend a career in IT within AllState to anyone. Main reasons would be if you decide that the role you're in is not exactly right for you, you can switch roles very easily. I also enjoy the diversity of work that I have within the company and knowing that this is a stable job that I can rely on.
We're actually not an IT company. We're the US's largest publicly owned property and casualty insurer, so we do a whole lot of stuff there. I'll give you an idea of the scale of the company. We turn over something around about $40 billion a year, and on good years we pay out less than $40 billion a year on claims. So we talk about you're in good hands. So effectively all we do is deliver a promise to people that if you insure with us, something happens to you, we'll pay out. And some examples of that are when Katrina hit New Orleans, We were in there before the government agencies. We had set up mobile claim centres. We'd hired helicopters to go out above properties that we knew were insured with us to write them off and write checks out to people on the day. Those are the sorts of things that you do when you're in insurance in the US. You try and settle the claims as quickly as you possibly can. So that's what we do. If those of you who've been in the States will know that the business model is predominantly to sell it through agents, but we also try and sell now through all of the new media. Mobile technology is one of the biggest things that we're working on at the moment. We have a team of around about 40 people working on nothing but mobile technology. Voice technology is another thing that we're very big into. We run most of the voice communication systems for AllState out of Belfast, and we have about 80 or 90 people on that team. So there's a whole plethora of different jobs, great jobs that you can have as far as AllState's concerned. When you think about what it is that we're trying to do, we're just trying to do exactly the same things as every other business is trying to do. I keep saying that what we need to do is to do things, not just do things better, but do better things in the first place. Think outside the box. How can you do things better? How can we move this thing down the road as much as we possibly can? We still have massive opportunities for people in all sorts of different careers. One of the things that I'm struck about when I worked in the US, when I deal with US people almost every day of the week, is the way that they deal with success and failure. They, as far as they're concerned, they're risk takers. They would far rather take a high-risk job with a potential of being made redundant than go for the safe option. And I think a lot of us do the opposite in Northern Ireland. To them, somebody who fails is a risk-taking entrepreneur. They wear failure almost as a badge, whereas here, if you're a bankrupt, you can't show your face in society again. These are things that we need to get out because you need to try a lot of things. So one of the things, we'll get back to the slides now. One of the things that we wanted to do as far as AllState Northern Ireland was concerned was to create a business that did great things quickly and well. And one of the ways that we were going to do that is by communicating. You cannot communicate too much as far as these things are concerned. And communication is not just about me getting up and talking to the employees. It's about getting communication flowing throughout the organisation. I talked about the opportunity that I got on a Friday afternoon when somebody phoned me up, and I called it my serendipitous moment. If you think about it, that's what we need to do now. If there is an opportunity out there, and I'm telling you that there are millions. The IT sector is short of millions of people. There's a global crisis as far as this is concerned. If we can satisfy that demand, there's a massive opportunity out there. So going back to the Dead Poets Society, it's not carpe diem, it's carpe opportunem, or whatever the opportunity is, because that's what we need to do. We need to try and do something about the opportunity that's out there. The other point that I would like to make is that if we look at Northern Ireland's challenge going forward, and this is my contention and I firmly believe this, it's not lack of jobs. We don't have a lack of jobs, we have a lack of skills. All we need to do is to create the skills and the jobs will come after that. I have this fight all of the time with government departments in Northern Ireland. They keep saying, what is it you need? Tell us what you need and we'll make sure that education turns out those people. I can't tell you what I need. I couldn't tell you what I need 6 months down the line from now. I can't tell you what tomorrow's technology is going to be. I know that we're at the sharp end of doing things, but I can't tell you what those technologies are. But what I can tell you is that we need a lot of good broad-based skills. One of the things, and it's worth making the point, at the moment, in terms of computing at A-level, we only have 50 students in Northern Ireland, 50 students doing computing at A-level. We have around about 1,500 doing ICT. Now, there is a distinction, and a very important distinction between computing and ICT. ICT, and I don't want to sound too flippant about this, it's almost like advanced PowerPoint. It's not computing, it's not writing programs. The good news is that I think it's SIA are introducing a software development A-level or a software engineering A-level, and I think it's coming in around about 2015, which is great, but 2015 in my book is an awful long way away. One of the things that we're kicking the idea around, and I'd be interested to get feedback from you on this, is that we actually take good software engineering A-level students, take them into our business at that stage, not into university. We'll coach them, we'll put them through courses, we'll get them accredited by the universities, and we'll do a university degree over 3 or 4 years, saving them the university fees, making sure they don't rack up student loans, and they've got a job throughout their career. We want an early intervention to get those people, using the old Jesuit principle, if you get them young, you hopefully keep them. And that's effectively what we want to do. And that's an idea, in fact, at a meeting with the University of Ulster before I left to come here this morning on that very topic. Those are things that we're trying to do. We're trying to do funky things as far as this is concerned. If you think about the challenges that AllState have, here's one to think about. And I was over at a strategy conference. We already have things. We have a thing called DriveWise, which puts a bit of telemetry into everybody's car if they want it, and it assesses how well they drive, whether or not they do emergency stops, how fast they go around corners, if airbags are ever deployed in the car, all of those sort of things. And if you're prepared to put one of these things in, we give you a 15% discount, and it keeps going down depending on how we judge you as a driver. And the whole idea of that is to try and encourage safer driving. You saw the text there on the video. We're trying to encourage people to be safer drivers. But the one massive thing that's going to completely change the dynamic of our industry is smart cars. We will, within the next 10 years, have smart cars. You've seen cars already that park themselves, that have got intelligent cruise control, they've got all sorts of things. They've got night vision now in some cars, and you're seeing that in the top-end cars. Probably within the next 10 years, we will have cars that will drive themselves, driverless cars. What's that going to do to our business if we're in the car insurance business? Because the other thing, if you notice in Northern Ireland, the road deaths have come down dramatically, thank God. I think last year it was in double figures, but I remember in my youth it was always hundreds of people who were killed on the roads. The roads are getting safer. We're using more technology in cars. The need for insurance is differing in terms of the things that you need. Those are challenges that we need to get our brightest and best in Northern Ireland coming up with solutions in those areas. So we run Dragon's Den activities where we get people to pitch ideas to us. We run ideation sessions where we get people into a room and we say, here's the challenge, guys. Can you come up with ideas that'll help us out solve these problems? We develop things, and some of the things, I'm going to quickly go past this next slide, which I'll talk about. But there were the stats that I was telling you about in terms of the A-levels. That's derisory, in my opinion. We need to do something about that. These are the things that are happening now. I was at an event recently in Stormont where we were trying to encourage people into the ICT sector, and Basil McRae got up and talked about the point and click generation. And I had to correct him, say it's not the point and click generation, it's the tap and swipe generation. Now we're all using mobile phones and tablets, and that's the things that we need to create that sort of technology going forward. That's where there's a huge opportunity, and we should be involved. I've often said about business, if you see a bandwagon, you've missed it, because you're too late. We should be ahead of the curve on things like this, on mobile technology, on tablet technology, how we take the mainframe to the tablet. All of those sorts of things are huge opportunities as far as I'm concerned. So let's look at some of the things. I mentioned smart cars. These are some of the projects that we're currently dealing with in Belfast. So we're developing mobile apps. In some cases, it's gamification, and we've already heard references to that today, where you invent games to teach people how to drive better, where you invent games to try and get a concept across to them. Those are things that we're doing, and there's a huge tie-up between what's being done there and the creative technologies that we talked about, or I talked about Ken Robinson, for example. driver analytics. One of the things that we're doing now is doing a lot of what's now called as decision sciences. It's no longer called database management or data mining. It's decision sciences. So we have lots of high-grade mathematicians who are working on nothing but analytics and statistics, and they're figuring out how we can provide better products for the marketplace. So these are things that we're doing in Northern Ireland, and these are the sort of jobs that we're offering. I suppose one of the things that I didn't talk about, and this is the opportunity that we have, and maybe if I could leave you with this thought, and I've said this at a number of conferences. If you look at Northern Ireland, in terms of, if you want a combination of cultural alignment, talent, cost base, work ethic, attitude, and these things are important to you, and you need English speaking, there's nowhere better in the world than Northern Ireland. We combine all of those things and combine them very well. We compete with India every day of the week. In fact, AllState have just set up a captive organisation in India, so we know exactly what the Indian model is. India can't turn out enough IT graduates. They have a huge problem as far as IT is concerned. We really need to plug into the massive opportunity that there is here. And it is truly a massive opportunity. It's the thing that keeps me awake at night is being able to get people. That's why I appeal to you and appeal to you to appeal to parents who in turn will be the greatest motivation for the kids to hopefully choose STEM subjects and computing as a career. So thank you very much. And I'm happy to take questions if anybody has any.
Hello, Ingrid Arthur, see you. I just thought, it's not actually a question, I just wanted to inform you that, inform everyone that the software and systems development is actually for first teaching this September.
Good.
So its first award in 2015.
Well, what we want to do is the first people who do the exam, we want to hire them. So that's
Great.
the challenge, okay?
That'll be an incentive for their exam, thank you.
Barry Corrigan, Millennium Integrated Primary School.
Hi, Barry.
Is it a challenge for yourselves and local companies then to start putting pressure on our local politicians to really move the agenda beyond academic achievement and getting the skill base throughout Northern Ireland, so when it's married with the academic achievement of our children, that you guys then have a workforce that are skilled up and ready to take us further into the future?
That's exactly what we want, Barry, but the only thing I would take issue with there is getting the politicians to do something about it. I don't think we can expect politicians to take on this agenda. I think that's why I'm here today to talk to you guys. I think you can effectively what we need to do is to get the hearts and minds of parents to tell kids that IT is a good profession to get into, that there's lots of opportunities. IT is at the core of everything. If you look at agriculture, if you look at entertainment, if you look at banks, if you look at insurance, IT is everywhere. It's ubiquitous. And we need to get the message through that it isn't going into a company like ours and sitting down and programming. There's not a business in the world that doesn't use IT and doesn't have a huge demand to crunch data and to make sense of a whole lot of, we talk about big data and all of these things that are around there, cloud computing. Moore's law means that everything's doubling virtually by the day in terms of the information we have. Back to the point Stephen made about encyclopedias, look at the masses of information out there that you need to use for marketing, for sales, for trying to figure out things like statistics that we do in ensuring people to see where we can come out with different products. What we need to do is to make sure that ICT, yes, all of the computer literacy stuff is core to the curriculum, but we also need to excite something, light a fire with the pupils to say, you need to get into this. And you can do that through Computer Dojo, which is just up the street here on Saturday mornings, which is great, and I commend those activities. But you're going to see a video later on that Jonathan's going to show you. Bill Gates started writing programs. It was tic-tac-toe games. Mark Zuckerberg was up in his dorm room and he just wanted to make friends with people. He was just kind of a sad person and he wanted to make friends. He developed Facebook as a result of that. Those are the sorts of things that we need to do. And that sort of stuff can easily be done in Northern Ireland. We've got, back to my last slide there, the combination of creativity, cultural alignment, English speaking. we've got all of that talent here. We could be absolutely world class, and that message needs to get through. So rather than turning out doctors and accountants and every parent having an aspiration for their son or daughter to be a teacher or whatever it happens to be, they need to understand that there's a huge opportunity. If you want to be employed, if you want to earn really big bucks, start a company. If you want to earn big bucks, become very good at some of these things that I'm talking about here. I mean, if you are a good, and I mean a really good rock star .NET programmer, you can virtually write your own salary. You know, you have to be fairly mobile to do that, but that's the sort of thing that we're talking about. It's a fabulous opportunity, and people have to understand that there's it's not going to go away. It's only increasing. And again, coming back to the video that Jonathan's going to show you later on, they're already saying there's 100. Let me get this statistic right. They're short 10 million IT people in the US. 10 million. In India, they're probably short about 50 million IT. Here alone, if you look at the jobs that are advertised in Northern Ireland, 90% of them are in the IT space. They aren't for teachers or lawyers or accountants or doctors for that matter. Those are kind of, yes, by all means get into that if you have the vocation to do that. But for everybody else, there's a massive opportunity staring us straight in the face here. And that's the message that everybody here needs to carry through to the parents, because they're very influential, and then through to the kids. And sorry to knock this one. I don't think the politicians are capable of doing it, because, you know, I don't want to knock Basil McRae. He's one of our more progressive politicians, but, you know, he thinks of it as point and click. They don't quite get it. I've had situations where I'm talking to permanent secretaries who are next step down from politicians, and they don't get it either. And I've been, you know, thumping this tub for the last 15 years, and it's only now it's beginning to resonate. And fair play to Dell. They are now getting a lot of programs together at the entry level, which will have a downstream effect. But my pain is now, I talk about our business, it's almost like a cake. And in the cake, you need the marzipan layer, which are the people who've got the 10 years experience, who've got the scars on their back, who can do really good stuff. And then the rest of the cake is effectively the people who are the apprentices to the rock stars, if you like. And we don't have enough of that marzipan layer. We're getting a lot of the cake stuff sorted out at the moment, but we need a much bigger layer there. One of the ways that we need to do that, and I think David Cameron's waking up to this fact, is to allow people visas to come into this country, because we can't get the people. We can't hire people in India any longer. We hire people in Lithuania, Spain, a lot of people from India, a lot of people from Poland. We can't get the people here. So if you look at 2,200, 2,300 people we employ, 200 or 300 of those have come from outside Northern Ireland because we can't get them here. But if we could have got more and we could get visas for more, we'd still be hiring them, and they will in turn fertilize the cake piece of the stuff that goes below the marzipan. So that's the challenge that we have as a community here in Northern Ireland. It's an opportunity staring us in the face. We need to do something about it.
Rob McLaughlin, Grosvenor Grammar School. Thanks very much for an engaging presentation. I've heard you speak on a number of different occasions, and I know you sit in a number of different committees.
And you came back for more, Rob, and I'm surprised. Anyway.
With Queen's University as the most notable example of a group trying to get industry and head teachers together to discuss exactly the issues that you were highlighting. And I thank you for, yet again, the clarity between IT and computing. We all obviously need IT skills, everyone in this room, to do their jobs, but the world of work and the opportunities for high-end jobs in Northern Ireland and across the world is in the world of computing. And that message isn't clear. And it's not clear in the media repeatedly when they present about an IT shortage rather than a computing shortage and a programming shortage. And I would challenge everyone from government and business and industry to ensure that that is a clear message. My main point is actually something that I've challenged Dell with and DE, and I know now Queen's and a number of business leaders are trying to address this issue, is as school leaders, we are constantly trying to educate our pupils, to give them careers advice, And it is very, very difficult to keep up to date and have the appropriate labour market information accessible for those pupils. And many of them follow the pursuit of medicine, accountancy, law, because those are easy careers. They're easy to establish a direction, there's a clear path. They have an older relative, a father or a mother who's followed that career choice. It's very important that we have online information. And it was interesting to see your video clips. And I know Dell and the Career Strategy have looked at this, and they've been looking at it now for about 2 years, putting together an online information source for schools, for parents, for pupils to access. Because with the kindest respect in the world to all of my colleagues from schools, we're not the people who convince a child to do, and we shouldn't be the people that are trying to convince a child to do. The child needs to see it for themselves. And the quality of information that's out there in an online forum, easily accessible for our pupils to see and for our parents to see, exactly the sort of presentation that you have given today. It's to a small number of people. But I would encourage you, along with other industry leaders, to work with the government departments to make something like this in the face of all of our young people, all of our parents, so that they see it.
And I take all of those points absolutely, Robin. You're hitting the nail on the head, and we have to put our hands up and say we have not been good as an industry at creating the sex appeal that needs to go around these sort of jobs. We do need to do something about that. There have been some minor attempts at doing things in the past. We really need to get good at it. Now, okay, we in our small way are trying to do something there, and in as much as I can in another small way, when I get an opportunity to do these sort of things, I want to do them to impress upon people. There's very diverse careers. It's not as focused as being a lawyer or an accountant or a doctor, and that's why there's an attraction to those sort of professions, because IT or computing people could be all over the page in terms of different careers that they're doing. And if you look, it's interesting, in fact, if you look at the Forbes rich list, I think something like 7 out of the top 10 have all made their money out of computing and IT in some way or another. So there's fabulous opportunities there, but there's opportunities right down to the lowest level. As I say, we could hire people today. We probably today and on any given day have at least 50 to 100 openings that are there for people if they only knew about them. And you know, I had a conversation with a friend the other night in the golf club, and he was saying, what do I do about my daughter? She's got a first class honours degree and she's cleaning. She's doing a cleaning job, you know, and that, to me, that's a terrible waste of skill and ability that this is happening. Yet in an industry like ours, we can't get enough people into it. But all of your points are very well made, Robin. You know, where there's a criticism of us as an industry, I have to accept it. We have not been good at it.
Bro, can I ask a question, please? I'd like to congratulate you on this conference, Linda Clark, University of Ulster. I've got my teacher educators around me today. It's great. We are very enthusiastic about all of this and trying to work to develop teacher education, because I think the role of teachers in this area will be crucial. I have got an email here, though, from the Department of Education. I sent them a question about developing teacher education in this area. At this stage, no decision has been taken as to whether there will be any IT for software development in Northern Ireland. And if you wish to develop this, you must know that you must seek approval for the programme, governed by the provisions of DE Circular 2010-03, and this will need an assessment of any evidence of need.
And you see, it's back to putting the cart before the horse here, Linda, as far as that's concerned, because I hear this all the time. Give us your prospectus, tell us what it is that you need, and we'll deliver. And I'm saying, sorry, it's the other way around. We need to stack the shelves high of all of these people with the ability, and then all of the global investment will follow the skills. That's my, I mean, the one thing that we don't have in Northern Ireland is a big vision of what potentially this sector could look at. It's all incremental stuff. They go out to the industry and they say, how many more people can you employ? And they ask us and we say 200 people, and somebody else says 50, and they say, right, here's the potential. What they miss there is there's millions of openings there. There's millions of companies looking for these skills. If we created those skills, we could become the hub. We could become the epicenter of the technology area if we did something about it. And back to all of those things I talked about: cultural alignment, English speaking, talent, work ethic. We've got it all. We fit the bill absolutely. And meanwhile, this bandwagon is passing us by, and the opportunity is passing us by, and we need to do something about it.
Absolutely.
But anyway, listen, anything like that you can give me as firm evidence of people who have their heads in the sand, I would welcome, because if I ever get an opportunity to speak to anybody, I don't want to completely diss all of the politicians. There are some politicians who are passionate about this, but if we can get people in Dell and DE to think of this way and start realigning what it is. Creativity is so important. That's why I mentioned Ken Robinson. I think in some ways education needs to be looked at in a different way, but coming out of that, fostering the idea that everybody's got creative talents, we just don't know where they are at this point in time. And that's the point that Ken Robinson makes far better than I'll ever do it.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more, and I will send you this email, and we'll see if we can get around the circular rather than going round in circles, which is what I suspect will happen if I pursue this through the normal channels.
And if you like, everybody here now knows what my hot buttons are. I leave a few business cards there, and if anybody wants to email me or set me up for meetings or whatever, I'm more than happy to talk on this subject because I'm passionate about it. So,
thank you very much.
Thanks, Sarah.